Keith Hernandez joins us on this episode of the Shea Anything podcast. Lots to discuss with Keith, who's been down in Port St. Lucie doing a couple games for the network. We'll talk his impression of Pete Alonso, what's going on at third base, what's going on at the back end of the rotation, some predictions, as well as we get set to move the season up north. The episode starts now. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Keith, welcome to you. It's good to see you. How's it been down there?
It's great down here. I mean, this is the hottest day of the spring. It is sizzling out there today, and which is good for the players. And I know that you guys are up there in your 40s and 50s. I sympathize. Yeah,
thank you. I wore a scarf to work today. Yeah, middle of March. That's a good feeling. I want to get to a reaction revisited because it's been a while since we were able to do one of those. Obviously, you're in the booth for the first time throughout a long off season where we weren't able to do this with you. There was a funny moment on the air the other night where it appeared you were talking to Hadji. Gary Cohen was as confused as the rest of us. Let's take a listen to it.
Hadji. Something going on over there that I should know about?
Keith occasionally talks to himself, but it gets on air. It's always late in the game when I do it.
Did you say anything in particular?
Yes, I
like
did.
To share with the class?
No, it's okay.
Huh? Were you talking to your cat?
Yes, I was.
All right, Keith, here's my theory on what was happening, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I just got a puppy 3 weeks ago. We've bought a camera for our apartment where even when I'm not home and when we're not home, I watch the camera to see what he's doing. Was that what you were doing? Were you watching on your phone Hadji running around the house?
No.
Oh. So what?
Door number one was not the correct answer.
And that's my final answer. Okay, so how was Hadji making you giggle in the booth at Cloverfield?
Giggle. When the games are boring, I drift. And when I drift, I just was obviously thinking, a lot of things I say are knee jerk. And I just called out to Hadji and Greg Picker. I said it very low. I said, there was a pause. I said, "Oh gosh," and I hope I can get away with that. And then around 7 seconds later, Greg Picker goes, my earpiece, he goes, "Did you just call out to Hadji?" So then Gary picked up on that, and then we had fun with it in the booth.
So it was really just like you weren't looking at pictures of Hadji on your phone. It was just like if you're watching.
The game was so boring at that point that I was just drifting.
You just called out. Do you think Hadji was watching? Had you left a TV on at home?
Well, Hadji in the commercials up on the stadium, he does get on that computer and he does watch the games. So I don't think so. The computers are turned off. He's actually sleeping right there, right now to my left.
Well, I hope you played it back for him on DVR, so he knew you were giving him a mid-game shout out. That is funny. And the fact that you thought you were going to get away with it, because a couple seconds did go by and I was waiting for Gary to jump in. And that's clearly when Picker got maybe both of your ears and was
Picker picked up on it. And then Gary just jumped all over it. So when you got a spring training, the first two games of spring training were just dreadful. The second game I did was like almost 4 hours. And it's typical of early spring when you got a lot of minor leaguers and you get them out there to pitch and they're raw and they're talent and they're wild and then they're 3-2 counts and all this stuff. But the last game that I called with Gary Apple, was a really good game. It was a game that was well pitched to contact. It was 4 double plays. The ball was put in play. And it was a nice game, even though they managed to do it in 3 hours. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it.
I mean, is there a way to change that? I'm
No.
just saying, I know we're both broadcasters, but it's valuable time for those minor leaguers, right? You're never going to want to take that away from them, even if it makes the games boring for the rest of us, right?
Well, no, the minor leaguers, it's their chance. My
Right.
first number in the big leagues when I was invited to camp when I was 19, I think, my number was 57. But I was a middle linebacker. And but I had my name on my back on my Cardinal uniform, and I was so happy to wear that uniform and just so happy just to be in the dugout and watch the games and be around the major leaguers, be in the clubhouse with them. It's a big thrill.
Yeah. I even remember filling in for Steve Gelbs, and like it'd be the 8th inning of a game that I know no one watching at home cares about anymore, but it was one of my first times doing it. So I cared a lot, and I felt like one of those rookies on the field. It's like, this may not matter to anyone but the pitcher or the hitter right now, but it's a big moment for them. And I always think that that's such an interesting distinction between the rest of us sitting on our couch being like, wow, this game's dragging, and
Right.
somebody who's, about to get sent back to minor league camp and having the at-bat of their life.
Which was shocking. That, remember the first game we played on TV, the first home game, it only went 7 innings. I was shocked because you've got so many pitchers that need to work, that need to get out there and pitch. I was really surprised.
Yeah. So obviously we talked a lot last season about Pete Alonso, and I know that your access is still not where you'd like it to be. I mean, you're still not able to go down to the field, right, and talk to Pete if you want to, or so you're not able to have those kind of casual conversations that you might have had in years past. But I know you were watching Pete closely last year and his issues, mental, physical, what have you. You think he looks like a different guy this spring, a more confident guy?
Well, he certainly talks the good game, that's for sure. And I don't think he's. I saw him last year. Okay, he can say he's as confident as he is, and I'm ready to come out of it and this and that. But when you go into a prolonged deep slump like that, it'll shake you to your core, and you've got to fight through it and see how strong you are to fight through it. He's come with a very positive attitude this spring. I don't care if he's hitting 3 for 28 right now. The way he's swung the bat, he's a threat. I've compared him to Harmon Killebrew in that 50 home run year. And I went back and I looked at Harmon Killebrew, who's a Hall of Famer. He's a member of the 500 club, 500 home runs, a select group, and 500 and more. Killebrew was a 260 hitter, but he hit 40 home runs. He took a vicious swing like Pete. Pete can be pitched to. He's staying within himself this spring so far, what I've seen, and I like. He's swinging the bat aggressively. He's got a plan. If a pitcher can make his pitches and he's got good stuff, okay, he probably can get him out. But if they make a mistake, Pete's going to cover it. So I've really liked what I've seen from him at the plate so far this spring. If he can carry it through the season. Now, when the gun goes off and it's the season, and say you have a bad April, how is he going to react to that? And hopefully the best medicine, obviously, is that he gets off and has a phenomenal April.
I know JD Davis said to Steve Gelbs on the Cookie Club show that he saw Pete like getting into his legs a little bit more. And I obviously didn't really know what that meant.
Was what?
His legs, like that his lower half was stronger through his swing. So we asked Anthony Recker about that on the show. And we watched some video of Pete this spring. And it does seem like he's almost like squatting by the time he makes contact. And you hit that missile to right center for a homer last week. Do you see, like, when you watch him, do you see a different hitter, or do you just see a guy who's back to being the guy that he was?
I see the same guy. He stands he does, you got to bend your knees a little bit, and he does. But from the waist up, he's I'll give you a side view. This is a crouch. He is this way. He's upright with the crouched leg. And that's fine. I have no issue with that. Whatever is comfortable. Everybody has their own stance, their own comfort zone, what they were taught to do and what they've done their whole life. But I just think that he's using up the middle. He has to stay away in the right-handers. He cannot cover the entire plate. If they're going to throw that hard sinker in on his hands or up and in, and then the hard slider away, he's going to have to pick either a half of a plate or 3/4 of the plate, like I did off left-handers, and learn to take. Okay, if I'm looking away, take in. If I'm looking in, I got to take the pitch on the outer quarter of the plate. Now, I don't know how much Pete can do that. That would be my discipline. That would be one thing I would tell him. But when he chases, which he did last year, because he struggled, and I got to believe he had his confidence shook a little bit. Everything speeds up, and you start swinging the pitches this far inside, which he did, and the slider down and away. They were just doing that to him all, and then the whole last year. This is a whole fresh start now, and he is a guy that loves analytics, and he studies, and that's no guarantee of success. You can do all the studying you want and all that and prepare, but you got to get up to the plate and hit, and that's where we'll find out. But I have really, really liked what I've seen from him swinging the bat. He is dangerous. Jim Cott, and this is the last comment I'll make. Jim Cott, who played with the Twins, he played with Harmon Killebrew and he played with Tony Oliva. Tony Oliva was just a great hitter. He said Tony Oliva was your third hitter, 330 hitter. Because Tony Oliva hit the great pitchers, hit all of them. He was just a great hitter. Because Killebrew could be pitched to. He goes, but Killebrew had 45, plus 40 home runs and drove in 120 runs. That's the kind of hitter that Pete is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And I'm glad to know that your kind of summation of everything is that you really like what you're seeing. I'm sure Mets fans will like what they're hearing from you. Center field, Keith, I talked about it a lot all off season that I thought they needed an everyday good glove center fielder. They got Kevin Pillar, who may be that. They got Albert Almora, who may be that. But it seems like Brandon Nimmo is going to hit his way into the lineup every day. So chances are he'll play center field. You watch him go after balls from a unique perspective. Can he play that position every day on a good team?
Well, I think he can play. I think he's durable, yes. He has a tough time the ball hit directly at him, which is always the toughest ball for an outfielder, the line drive hit right at him, or the fly ball. He kind of gets a bad break on it and sometimes breaks the wrong way. Going laterally, which is what is needed, he's okay. He doesn't get the greatest of jumps on balls, but he can make up for that with his speed. And of course, with our two corner outfielders, with Dom Smith, Dom's going to play 130 games out there at least. And, Conforto played really good right field last year, but Conforto's not, a jackrabbit that can cover the big spaces at 81 games at Citi Field. So it's very important that the center fielder covers the gaps. And both gaps. So I have no issue. And another thing that we were talking about, without the DH and only 5 bench players, and you've got Dom Smith out of position. You've got Pete Alonso, who's no Wes Parker over at first base. I won't say me.
No, I was about to say. I wish you had said he's no me. And
you got J.D. Davis, who's a little challenged over at third. If you're going to make defensive changes late in the game, you're going to dwindle your bench if you're carrying 5 guys. I like 6 guys on the bench, and that's something I think the Mets should consider. And then instead of having 8 in the bullpen, have 7 in the bullpen. That's plenty. And but I don't make those decisions. The game goes extra innings, you're going to run out of bench.
Right.
Another point too. One of the bench players is your backup catcher. So the rule is you can't put your backup catcher in a game pinch hit him, because now if your catcher gets hurt, you got no catcher. Right.
The only good news is that they, in the health and safety protocols, they changed the rules again. Like, I know we don't have DH, but they do have the runner on second and extra innings, I believe.
Okay, sure.
So that helps the game not get into the 14th and 15th. So you might not get burned as much as you would if you go deep into your bench in the game anyway.
Gary Cohn had a good idea. He said, the 10th, 11th, and 12th inning, play it regular, nobody on, and then the 13th inning, put the guy in second. I never thought of that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, as soon as everybody starts to get loopy, and the hangovers and the fans who have had 6 or 7 pops during the game start to develop, that's when you need to introduce the new rules. I have no problem with the 10th inning.
Sometimes those 17-inning games, 15-inning games are fun. They're fun.
Well, we get the content. We get the content out of you in those games, so we don't want those to go away. That's where we get the best reaction. That's where Hadji's going to get his shout outs moving forward. Okay, so let's do a 3-batter rule. Just work our way through 3 topics here. Luis Guillorme worked that 22-pitch walk the other day, which got a lot of publicity because it was really cool. That's just the player he is. He's a great contact hitter. And then you mentioned before we came on that Guillorme had a great game at third in the game that you were doing. He is a really solid player. JD Davis is a potential 300 hitter with some pop, but the glove, as you mentioned, is lacking. Do you see that being an obvious decision as to who should play third base, and who do you think it should be?
Oh, JD's your third baseman going in, but JD has to hit. He has to bounce back from the season last year. And how can you draw any real opinions on a 60-game schedule? It's just, he had a tough time last year at the plate. He dropped significantly, but he has to hit and be productive to be in there. To me, Guillorme can play all 3, not all 3, but second, short, and third. And he's a left-hand hitter, and you can, give him 200 at bats in the course of the season. That's if JD is productive. And he can also come in for defense if he has to. He had, you said, the last game I had, which was, I think, Friday with Gary Apple. And I thought Gary Apple had a great play-by-play day for him.
We love Gary. I
thought he did a great job. It was easy to work with him. But Guillorme made 2 plays, backhand, deep in the hole, good throws across the diamond. You know that McNeil had the bad game early, 3 errors at third, and they said, that's it. He's only going to play second base. And then they put VR over there, who VR is basically been a shortstop, middle infielder. There's a difference between playing third base and being a middle infielder. Middle infielder, you're back, deeper, the ball, you have more time to read the ball. At third base, you get bullets hit at you. It's a whole different ball of wax. But Guillorme, VR made a couple errors there in the game. So it looks to me now, with that game that Guillorme played Friday, that I did, they got to give him some third base playing time and get more looks at him, get him more familiar. I think he's going to be the guy to go to if you want to put him in for defense late.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on JD to hit right out of the gate. And I'm just imagining being him and knowing how, I don't know, flimsy my everyday player status is, and knowing that in April and May I got a hit, or, Guillorme's glove, which doesn't go into slumps, is going to take the spot from me. I mean, is that type of pressure a good thing at the start of the year, looking up at the scoreboard in center field and focusing a lot on that batting average column?
Well, if you're a veteran, early in my career, yeah. I mean, April you can be 1 for 10 or 2 for 2 for 20. You're hitting 100, and that's 100's up on the scoreboard. But you go 3 for 4, and all of a sudden, you're 5 for 24. You're out. So it depends on the individual. Now, where's JD going to hit in this lineup? I'm going to hit 8th. It's either him or McCann. So I don't know who's going to. I think McCann's got more. I don't know what they're going to do with the bottom. It's either going to be McCann or JD hitting 8th. They're going to be 7th and 8th in that lineup. You look at the lineup.
Yeah,
you have they're pretty much set now on Nimmo and Lindor 1-2. So, and I agree with that. I don't think Lindor is a 3 hitter, and you get that speed up on the top of the order. I like that very, very much. And Lindor is a switch hitter, and his splits are pretty even. He's not weak on one side and great on the other. He's solid on both right and left-handed.
Yeah. No, the lineup construction is fascinating, and the 8 spot is especially fascinating given that we're going to have pitchers batting ninth again. Sounds like. All right, where should we go next with our 3-batter rule? Let's go with your idea before we started taping, the 4th and 5th starters. So David Peterson struggling a little bit. Carlos Carrasco, everybody seems to be trying to tamper down the worries that he's got an elbow issue. He's taking his time. He got his second dose of a vaccine, so he was dealing with some soreness. And there are some question marks at the back end, Keith, going into the season. How concerned about those are you?
Well, this is one of the things that Sandy did in the offseason, because it was Sandy in the offseason that made a lot of moves. They hadn't got the general manager yet. So Sandy was really the brain trust, I think, behind all this. And they really had a fabulous offseason, the best offseason as far as acquisitions that I can remember. And it creates it answered the questions and the needs of both the AAA and the Major League roster. Now, if Carrasco can't go, and hopefully he got the shot in his left arm, not his throwing arm. So I would assume he got his left arm. Yeah. Please. So if he can't go, and I saw his interview on his Zoom interview and on SNY, and he said he's had this problem before. He'll be ready, but let's just say he can't. Well, that opens up 2 spots, and I always like 2 left-handers in a starting rotation, starting 5. I liked having 2 left-handers mixed in there, and not overloaded one with right-handers. I liked Peterson last year. This is a fresh start for him. I talked to Ronnie about his last start. He gave up 2 runs, and Ronnie said he didn't have his command. Well, he's the type of pitcher that's a sinker slider pitcher that has to have command. He has to be down in the strike zone, hitting the corners, moving the ball in and out. If he doesn't have command, he's going to be in trouble. It's 1 start. He's going to get more starts. Joey Lucchesi we got from the Padres, I think is the big sleeper. He's got 2 years in the big leagues, actually 3. The Padres kind of quit on him last year. He only had 3 appearances, 2 starts, but the 2 years prior, he was 10-10, and I think 1 game under 500. So he's a 500 pitcher. He's got that 2 years of that resume there. So we have something to look at and say, okay, this is what he is. Not everybody in a starting 5 is going to be an 18-game winner. Your back end of your rotation, if you get a guy go 10-10 for you, you're happy with that. I'll take a 500 pitcher, my five starter or my 4 starter, as long as my big 3, win 16, today's game, 16, 15, 17, 18 games. I like him because he's left-handed. He's got the funky motion. He's hard to pick up. And I noticed also Pilar's interviewed in the game, but Pilar said he faced him. And he said, yes, he is hard to pick up because he's got this weird, and he comes up high and he comes over the top when he's got that curve, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what they call it. But he was a little shaky in that first inning. He went 2 innings, and then he kind of got out of the jam. And then the second inning, he was sharp, and he got a lot of called strikes on fastballs, inside corner, outside corner, when he kept it down too. Now, because he lifts that shoulder up so high, he has a problem getting the ball up. He has, getting up with his pitches, falling behind. He's really got to focus on, because of this, he's really got to come through to get the ball down. And he's a left-hander, and he's funky. And I thought from the get-go, when we got him, I thought, oh my, no one said anything about it. I said, that is a good pickup. So he's going to get another start or 2. He's going to start. He's going to have to start, because Carrasco can't go. And like I said, I like having 2 lefties. And we got, how many more? We got 3 weeks left in spring. Is that what it is? Whatever, we had the 15th, 2 weeks, my goodness. Okay. So they're going to get 2-3 more starts, and they're going to have to pitch to make the team.
Okay, last of the 3 batter rule, but the rest of these will be fairly quick hitters, Keith. Does Francisco Lindor sign an extension before the season starts, do you think?
No. It'll get
Okay.
done in season. It's
In
just
season.
posturing. He said, I don't want to negotiate. As a player, your agent, that's why you have an agent. I can play and he can negotiate, and it's not going to affect my play.
So you don't think that like spring training ends, that's a deadline? You think that's just posturing?
And if he's hitting 320 in the end of May, it'll get done.
Okay.
And I'm hopeful that Conforto's hitting it that way in late May. It'll get done.
Yeah. I think Conforto and Boris know that the Mets is the place for him. At least I would hope.
Well, I think that Michael likes New York. I think he likes being here, and everybody thinks that all Boris's clients go to free agency, and I'm sure that Scott will. His job is to advise his client, but that there's a risk you take. You can get hurt, but if you're talking, $120 million contract, send a limo. I'll be there.
By the way, I should note for our listeners at home that Keith is cradling Hadji as he's answering these questions. Okay, predictions before we go, Keith. These are from Jeff. I think they're interesting. Does Jeff McNeil hit 300 in 2021?
No reason why he shouldn't. He stays healthy. Remember, the only thing I worry about Jeff is he's strong. He's deceptively strong. He looks skinny and frail, but he's not. But in minor league past, he's had injuries. He's had injury issues. But there's a lot of players that get those. I got hurt. My first year, I tore a meniscus in my knee in spring training. The next year, I got hit in the wrist, and I had an issue with my wrist, and so my first 2 years, 18 and 19, in minor leagues, I started the season late with injuries. And what happened after that? I played my first 13 years in the big leagues. I never was on the DL. So maybe you get it out of your system.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if he's healthy, it's 300. How many homers for Pete this year?
Gosh, where my Karnak? Jeez. He's going to hit 30. You can't help it. Okay? He'll hit 30. He could hit 40. He's got that kind of stuff going on. He's a big, burly guy. The ballparks aren't going to hold him. What's going to be interesting is that they said that they were going to deaden the ball, MLB, which was kind of they never admitted that they can, make the ball the way they want it. They've always said, no. So that was kind of a admission that they can. Which
I know.
Do. So I'll be very curious to watch the ball fly in April, because usually the ball doesn't carry in April.
Yeah, I like that they said that. Not saying the ball's juiced, but we're deadening it.
Right.
It's like, come on. Okay, again, don't shoot the messenger. This is Jeff forcing these answers out of you. Does Jacob deGrom win a third Cy Young?
I'd say he's a strong favorite. If he stays, he's on top of the
From
world.
102. Yeah,
he's on top of the world. He's just he's figured it out. He's just, you watch him and he's throwing. Okay, I don't care about the velocity, but that's 100 miles an hour. He's painting sliders. He's you look at his motion, and it's no effort. He can go 9. He knows how to pitch now, and he's not like all out, drenching sweat every pitch. He's just, and you can just see it by his demeanor on the mound. He just got it going on. He's a great pitcher.
All right, last one. Are the Mets a playoff team?
Are we doing an extra tier of playoffs this year or no? No, we're not.
No, not as of now, no.
If they don't make the playoffs, now, if they don't get big injuries, they don't get in the playoffs, it's a very bad year, disappointing year. I like this team.
Yeah, I think they're a good team. I try and every year at around this time pinch myself and not overlook the Braves again, because everybody overlooks the Braves every year and they win the division every year. So
Don't
overlook
the Nationals.
That's true. They're reloaded a bit.
I'm not sold on the Phillies. They did a lot of things to improve their bullpen, but I'm just not sold on the Phillies. And you know what? I watched the Marlins the other day, and that was the game Guillorme had the good day at third base. I got to reevaluate them. They're not that bad. They've got some hitters in that lineup. Their offense was their problem. They're no slouch. They're going to be a team you're going to have to come and play and beat. And it's not going to be an easy mark. And if those young pitchers can pitch, that's the big question mark for them.
All right, Keith. Well, always good to chat with you. Travel safe up north if we don't talk to you until then. And enjoy the rest of spring training.